Hello again everyone, it's Chala and we are back with part 2 of our little special presentation of how to make a mini junk journal. Today we're going to talk about signatures and how we can make those and what we can make them out of. So we've gone ahead in part 1 and I'll try to remember to link that up above. We've gone ahead and made our quick journal cover. Again, you can make journal covers out of fabric, collaging, printed pieces, so whatever you like. This was just sewn around, so paper's glued down to a cereal box and sewn around. Again, I'll link to the video so you can watch how that was done. So now we want to create signatures for our journal cover, and our journal cover measures approximately 4 1/4 wide by 4 3/4 tall. Let me measure that again. Sorry, I can't do math, guys. I'm so sorry. So that is actually going to be 2 3/4 wide by 4 3/4 tall. That makes a little more sense. So I am going to make my pages measuring at 2 1/2 inches wide by 4 1/2 tall. That's what we want. So what can you make signatures out of? Well, you can make signatures out of anything. You can make them out of colored pieces of paper, lined pieces of paper, book page. I've got more lined pieces of paper here, coffee dyed paper, graph paper, and again some other just colored papers. So you can make your signatures really out of anything. It's just a place for the recipient of the journal to write on. Excuse me. Most of the papers that I get that are lined like this or graph paper, I honestly get them at my local Value Village. That's a great place to go to get lots of cheap books, and you know, there's just, you can't compare to going to like a stationery store to buy them, and you can get them in lots of bundles, and they can actually look quite old, like these ones here, newsprint ones. So that's a great place to start if you're looking to start journal making and don't want to spend a lot of money. This is what I would recommend. Alright, so what we're going to do here is we're going to now take some of these items and we're going to put them all together to make some signature pages. And I apologize if you can hear in the background, we're having a bit of a hailstorm here, so good time to be inside crafting. Alright, so I am going to just use some book page to start off with, and I'm going to just trim this so it is nice and straight. There we go. So that's at 5 inches, so that works perfectly. We want about 2 1/2 inches. So that should work fine. And we want it by 4 3/4 high. So I think what I want to do is just cut some of this excess off of this blank. And we want it at 4 3/4 high. I'm going to go ahead and save this because I can make journal cards out of this. I'm just backing some papers on here. And I'm going to bring in my scoreboard. And I'm just going to take these and I'm going to score them at 2 1/2 inches. Give them a bit of a fold. Just with my bone folder, this is a great tool to have. And there we go, I've got some of my pages for my journal. And what I might end up doing is I might end up inking up the edges of these just a little bit. So that will fit in our journal. Oh, I might have to cut that down a bit here. Well, 4.5. I cut it at 4 3/4. So let me just fix this here real quick. Again, math is not my strong suit. I always say I'm too pretty to do math. So let's just cut this excess off. And that fits into our journal just a little bit better. I think I want to trim even more off. I obviously don't have my measurements correct somewhere along the line, which doesn't quite surprise me. There we go. Yeah, that fits better. I just like how that fits just a little bit more room to move around. So these are, measuring them again. So we have our 2.5 by, I'm not good at this, guys, a little more than 4 1/4. All right. So we'll go ahead and cut down our next pieces. And I want to have it be 2.5 on this side. So these pages are already kind of in signature form. So this I just have to do 2.5. Actually, let's cut it this way first. I'm going to do it this way. So just a little bit more than 4.5. See that? And 2.5 inches. Again, these are papers that I'm going to save. I can collage with them. I can create other ephemera with them. So we'll set that aside. And then we have 2 more little pages for our signature. We'll just put that up here. Moving on to our next, we've got some lined newsprint. Again, we will cut this at, if that's 2.5, let's cut it this way. Let's go a little more than 4 1/4. By 2.5. I cut that right. Might have cut those a little bit smaller, but that's okay. So how many pages do we have now? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And in this signature, I'm probably gonna want, let's see, I'm gonna do 1 signature or 2. It's wide enough that I could do 2, but I feel like we'll just do 1, and we'll do about 20 pages. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8, 9, 10 if we do these blue pages. I hope you're all doing well and that the weather is nice for you. It's nice to have some rain. Hopefully cut down with the fires that we've been having lately. Lots of them going on in British Columbia. It's really quite sad. My cousins out there were being prepared to be evacuated, which is always scary. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm just making up a whole bunch of random pieces. So I'm going to go ahead and go off screen and cut the rest of them, and then I'll show you how I put the signature together. Alright guys, be back in a minute. Okay, so I have gone ahead and cut up a whole bunch of these neutral type papers for writing on. I also want to add some pattern papers to my signatures as well. So I'm going to go ahead and think about different elements that I also want in there using these pattern papers as well. And one of the ones that I want to create is some pockets within the signature itself. So I'm going to cut this 12 by 12 piece of paper. I'm going to cut it 8. Oops. Oh my goodness, that gouged really bad, but that's okay. We'll still be able to make it work. So 8 by 5. I should get that straight. So cutting that 8 by 5 inches. So it's going to fold this way, but before I do that, I want to fold up. But it has to be, I can get things to work here. I want to fold it so that we have just a little more than 4 1/4. So I think I'll use my scoreboard for this. I want it just a little bit more than 4 1/4. There's 4 1/4, so I'm going to go one more. Score that there. And this I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. I'll show you what I'm doing here in just a minute. Get rid of my scoreboard. Okay, so what we want to do is I'm going to fold this 1-inch piece over just to give it some stability. And then I'm going to fold up on that score line that we did. And now we are going to fold it in half. Like this. So I'm going to go ahead and glue down using my art glitter glue this little flap. Hopefully I can get my glue to work. Might need my pin. Alright, let's just poke that in there. There we go. So just giving that a little bit of art glitter glue to secure it, and this just makes the edge of this pocket a little sturdier so that it doesn't rip as easy, or rip at all is kind of our hope. And then we're going to fold this in half. I can get that to work with me here. And there we go. So we have some pockets here. So what I want to do is on this is I'm going to actually sew around these edges just to secure that. So I'm going to go ahead and just leave that to sew off camera. So there's another little element that we can have as part of our pages in our book. I'll just make sure that this is not too wide. Nope, we're still good. So yeah, you can tuck this into your signatures when you build them up, and then you just have a nice little pocket. So there we go, we've got that in our signature. So we'll build up our signatures after we create some of these other little pieces. But this is just another one of the ideas that I wanted to show you and how you can create pieces for your signature. Alright, let's go ahead and get the rest of these cut. Get my glue off screen. So we'll cut this one at Which way do we want it going here? Let's cut it this way. So we're going to go 5. And then just a little more than 4 1/4. Like so. And then fold it in half. So having these little pattern papers to go inside our signatures are also going to give it some interest and just add a little bit more fun to the journal itself. So I'll go ahead and finish up these pattern pieces off screen, and I'll come back and show you them all once I am done. Okay, sorry guys, I got actually sidetracked, so it is actually the next day and I am now going to put together my signatures. So I have all my cut up papers and I'm going to do 2 signatures since I have so many papers. And so I have created these little kind of little tuck envelope pockets here, or little tuck pockets, and I've sewed them. I'm just gonna get rid of this. Okay, so yeah, so this is going to be part of our signatures as well, and I think I'm going to have this be the center of each signature. So let's go ahead and start building. I'm going to take a colored piece or a pattern piece and some book page. Then I'll take some of this lined paper, if I can get my fingers to work. Stick that in there. Maybe I'll have a blue piece, some graph paper. Let's see here. Maybe I want some coffee dyed paper in there. How much coffee dye do I have? I have 3. Okay, and then I will take one of these. One of these pieces, and I think that gives me one of everything, and then I'm going to add in that center pocket piece. Actually, I need one more of these pattern pieces, and let's put that right in here. All right, so basically you just build your signatures up however you like, however you want your pages to kind of look in what order you want them to be in, and I think I am happy with this order. Let's just check it out. Yeah, this makes me happy. So there is one signature done. I've got that done. Now I'm going to go ahead and build up my second signature, and I guess I'll do this one for the outside. Do some book page. I'll do a piece of this, if I can get my fingers to work. We'll do some blue paper, some coffee dye. Do we have any graph paper yet? No, we'll do some graph paper. And what else do we have? Do another one of these, one of these, one of these, and then this one. So let's see. These will just be extra pieces. I can use them on my next journal. That's fine. So I'll just take those and put them to the side. And let's see how many I have in here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And on this one I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. So that works out well. So 2 signatures with 10 pieces each, which makes it 20 altogether. So 20, so about 40 pages in our journal. We'll take our cover and we'll just see how that fits in there, and then we can do some embellishing. So the next thing we want to do is figure out if we want to do any sewing on the pages prior to putting these into, sewing it into our book cover. I think I'm going to keep this really simple. I think if I'm going to do any embellishing on the sides of the pages, I'm just going to glue it down. So I'm going to go ahead and let's get this sewn into our signature. Now I need to find, I still have it, I meant to keep our little piece here. So I think what I'll do is I will have this as a hidden spine, and I'm going to sew into this piece here. So what I need to do first is find our paper that we used for the inside cover, just so I can match it up, and I will glue this down. So again, I'm going to use my 3-in-1 glue. And again, you don't have to do this. You can have an exposed spine, that's just fine. An exposed spine again just means that you can see your strings on the outside. That doesn't bother me. It's just I thought this would be a fun thing to do. All right. And we'll apply that down, giving it a good rub. Make sure that glue is adhered itself to that paper. And then we'll go ahead and trim this up. Now I don't usually do this, but I think just to add a little bit more security and interest, I'm going to take this over to my sewing machine, and I am just going to zigzag all the way around. Again, you don't have to do that. That's just something that I kind of want to have in here just to keep it aesthetically with the look of the inside of this journal cover. So I will be right back after I've given this a little sewn around. Okay, so I've gone ahead and I've sewn around. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but I just wanted to tack down that paper. Again, just to give it a bit more interest when I do sew this, or glue this, sorry, inside of our piece, just to give it some extra stability. And hopefully that will work. Hopefully, I might have to just trim a little bit here. Careful not to unravel any of my stitches. Just needed a little bit off there. So that is perfect. All right, so the next thing we want to do is you want to have some sort of mat, like a self-healing mat, because we are going to be poking into our binding here, and we're going to be sewing in our signatures. And so we'll just figure out, I think I want this one in the front and this one in the back. I usually like to start sewing in on the back side and then sew in to the front of the journal. It doesn't matter which way you do it, whatever works best for you. So I just have my little needles and stuff in this little pouch that I have. And I think I'm going to use this color. Now the general knowledge of this is that you want to use 3 times the length of your signature. So 1, 2, 3. And this is wax string, and I'm noticing here that I have some kind of funky bits. I don't know if you can see that, and I don't really like that. I feel like that's not going to pull through my journal very nicely. So I think what I'll do is I'm just going to cut that off and try that again. So there's 1, 2, 3. That's better. No lumpy bits in that. Then I'll grab one of my needles. Preferably one that's got a big enough eye that I can see what I'm doing. I think this one is good. And then we also need our friend the awl. So you can measure out where you want your holes to be. I'm just going to eyeball it. This one's so small that I don't think it's really going to make that much of a difference. So I am going to just punch through. First I have to take the little stopper off. Don't want to lose that. This is very sharp, so don't poke yourself with it. So I'm just going to eyeball. I'm going to go in right about here. And let's see. Go right about there. So just making a hole. And then eyeball about here. Try and line myself back up where I was. And about here. Hopefully it's straight, somewhat straight. So just poking my holes a little bit bigger. And I want one more. So if I line this up to there and there, one more in the middle, about right there. So not a direct science to this one at all. Usually I like to measure, but again, this one is so small that I'm not going to worry about it. Let's make that a little bit bigger. Now I can take my thread. We're going to sew this signature onto the spine. So you want to leave a long enough end to it so that it doesn't come out. You can see that. Got a pretty long tail there. And I'm going to go in the top and in the top of our spine piece as well. Pull it through, and we want to leave enough length that we can tie it. So now we're going to go in through the middle and then in through the middle of our hole there. Hopefully you can see that. It should pop right up. There it is. Push that through. Okay. And we're going to go down through here. You know what? I'm doing this wrong. I haven't sewn one in a while. Let's try that again. We want to go in through the middle. Isn't that what I did? In through the middle. Look at me not knowing what I'm doing. So in through the middle, up through the top. This feels better. Okay, so we've got a bit of length here. I'm going to just shorten that a tad. Okay, then what we want to do is go back down through this middle. Now, what you want to be careful is you do not want to split your threads. Okay, so let's pull this up to the top, because if you split your threads, when we go to pull everything tight, it's going to not tighten because you've gone through these little threads. So I'm going to be mindful that I'm going through and not splitting it on this side. I don't know if you can see that. Okay, so going back through that center hole, back up through the bottom here. Hopefully this will come through where I want it to. Oh, no, 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 that's not where I want it to go. There we go. Back up. And then what we want to do is go underneath this top string. Okay. And I have quite a bit of length on this. So what I can do is I can just kind of give myself more on this end. So I'm just going to work a little bit at these strings just to give myself kind of the equal amount. And it should let us do that because we haven't split our ends. So there we go, that's a little bit better. And then this one, I'm going to go underneath this string so that they're kind of on opposite sides. You see that? Okay, we're going to pull that nice and tight, and then we're going to knot it, pulling nice and taut, and then we're going to knot it again the other way. Like so. So at this point you can just keep these long if you want to put little dangles or gems on the end of them. If you did it through the spine, you could have this part coming out the back so that you could have dangles hanging off the back of the spine. Again, we're going to have a hidden spine, so we're not going to see that. Or you can do what I like to do. I like to just put a bow. So go ahead and put a little bow, and then we can even trim off some of the ends there. There we go. So there's our first signature sewn onto our hidden spine. Okay? So let's go ahead and do the exact same thing with our second one. Now, like I said, typically I would make like a little template, or I would measure this out. This time I'm not really worrying about it, just kind of getting it somewhat in the same area. Try and line up my signatures to each other. And I want one hole about here. Again, making sure that you're using some sort of self-healing mat. You don't want to dig directly onto your glass mat or onto your work surface. And I'll go about here. Again, you can clip these pages together with alligator clips or paper clips if you want to keep them from moving around. You'll find that that becomes more helpful for a larger journal. This is such a tiny journal that doesn't make that much of a difference for me to have them clipped. Alright, so again, general rule of thumb, 3 times the length of your journal, and that's 2. And that's 3. And then that should give you more than enough to work with. Thread that through, leaving ourselves a tail. Again, we want to go in through the middle, not the top. I guess you could go through the top if you wanted, but the middle works better. Pull that through, leaving a tail on this end. Then we're going to go through the top, okay, the top hole that we made. And then I'm going to do this signature part separately here. Just make sure I get it through the right holes. It's a little bit finicky, but so worth it when you see your finished project, knowing that you hand sewed it. Okay. Now we're going to go back in this middle hole, again being careful not to split our string. You can get this bookbinding kit. I got mine off of Amazon, and they're fairly inexpensive. Got caught up there. And then we're going to go in through the bottom. This is a little bit hard to show you on camera because I'm flipping around. And then through our hole there. There we go. Okay, now I'm going to try and even out my strings just a little bit, just so I have the similar length to work with. Okay, so again, this one will go underneath this string, and this one will go underneath this string. Okay, now we can take our needle off, and we can pull it taut, give it a knot. Again, the key thing you also wanted to remember is making sure that you're sewing in your signatures right side up, that they're not upside down, because that can happen too. I have done that and have had to cut my signature out and redo it. Okay, giving it a second knot, pulling taut, and then I'll give it a bow. And just tighten these up. There we go. And then I'll just clip off some of the extra length of these ends. You don't have to do that. You can leave yours long if you like. And there we go. We have our signatures sewn into our spine, just like that. So the last thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead, and this is where I'm going to actually grab some paper clips or alligator clips. So one second. I'm just going to use some paper clips for this. And what we want to do now is to glue our hidden spine into the cover of our journal. Okay? And I'm just going to use the paper clips just to hold it in place just while it sets up. All right. So I'll get my 3-in-1 glue again. Again, making sure that your signatures are the right way up. And you can see the exposed binding here. That's what would be showing on the outside of your book if you did not do a hidden spine. So just using lots of glue over top of the strings, just to make sure it gets some good adhesion, making sure I go over that sewing as well with the glue so that it helps to tack down. There we go. And then carefully lining it up in my cover, making sure that it can close. And this is where I'm going to grab my paper clips. And once I know I have them in place, I'm going to use this paper clip just to clip down that edge, and then another paper clip on this side just to hold down this edge. Let's try that again. There we go, and that should hold it in place while it dries. So I'm going to let this dry for a good while. I probably will let it dry overnight, and then on the next video we'll talk about decorating. So what we've covered in this video is getting our signatures ready, binding them into, and then gluing them into our covers. So we've covered quite a bit today. Thanks so much for joining me, and we'll catch you on the next video. Take care. I just want to thank you so much for spending your time with me today. If you haven't done so already, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. If you're looking for specific materials that I've used in today's video, go ahead and check out the links down below. As well, I'd really love it if you sent me some snail mail. I'm always interested to know what you guys have been up to and what you've been creating, and I'd love to share your cards on my next video. Thanks so much again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. P.S. I love you.